I haven't made a new video in a bit, and it's mainly because I don't really have anything significant or meaningful to talk about, and I would rather not make things for the sake of making things. Believe it or not, all my yap sessions, all the things I yap and blabber about on and on and on and on here, I do them because I want to, because I think of doing something in particular, Um, it is actually quite intentional. And you may say, well, do you have something to talk about now? Not really, but I thought I might as well give a bit of an update and talk about my state of self currently. Well, first, I turned 27 early this month, and I joked about how 26 is an old age, 25 is a young age, 27 is a young age. But it is true. I feel like there's this weird perception of age, right? Where 21 is young, 22 is old, 23 is young again, 24, it's kind of like can go either or. And basically, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying that this is an old age, this is a young age. I don't mean it in the literal sense. I mean it in the self-perception kind of sense. When I was 22, I felt old, like I was getting there, right? When I was 19, I was feeling like I was getting there. When I was 23, I didn't feel like that. When I was 25, I didn't feel like that. But when I was 24, I was kind of feeling it a bit. I was like, oh God, I'm 24, almost 25. I'm going to be at the halfway point. When I was 25, I didn't feel it. But at 26, it was killing me, because that's when it starts to dawn on me that, holy shit, I'm closer to 30 than to 20. And now at 27, I don't really have many of those fears. I think part of me kind of want a knowledge that I'm still young, and two, there's nothing to fear about when it comes to being 30. I still have a ways to go. But then again, I would not be surprised if a year from now I am going to start stressing out that, oh no, I'm pushing 30. Oh no. Like that's kind of a thing. Like, I'm not expecting myself to be above any of this. And I think that's just kind of the funny thing. That's how people work. Uh, Age is a very weird thing, and I like I hate how the wording, the sentence of age is nothing but a number is like now used to mean creepy things, because like it can mean it's never too late to start getting into something. You're if you're 60 and you want to start skating, go for it, or you know it is a matter of perception. For example, I don't know, if you asked even, let's say, a 16-year-old, what do you see as old, they will probably say 30 something, 40. If you ask someone my age, I'll probably say 60 something. But when you ask someone in their 50s, they're probably going to say 70, 80. Someone who's 70, they're probably going to say 90. It's a matter of perspective, but also it's a matter of how you perceive people older than you. Like, I would not, like, if I had a 20, if there was me, a 19-year-old, let's say, not 20, and a 45-year-old. I would probably say that I have more in common with the 19-year-old, and or just say that I don't have anything in common with either, or I have things in common with both, right? However, someone who's, let's say, 16 would probably like team me up more likely to someone who with that 40 something year old, because to them there's not that much of a difference. And I think that's kind of the thing with the perception, that someone who is way younger than you will see you and will see someone who's significantly older, and say, well, you're on the same camp, you're kind of the same. When you're there, you're like, no, I'm not the same as this person. They're in their 40s. They have like a child as a teenager, and I'm still figuring things out. It's best I can also give another comparison is, when we're kids, we look at grown-ups, and especially our parents, as people who have it had figured out everything, we're like, wow, my parents have it all together, they have everything figured out and sorted out. And then we realize, past the point in adulthood where things are more certain, that no, adulthood isn't about having it figured out. That's society's perception. Yeah, society wants to paint it as such, but no, I would say adulthood is just trial and erroring your way through life until you see what works and you stick to it as good as you can. It pretty much, you just have to learn and stumble your way around. It's just that your parents probably did a good job trying to hide that, because obviously you as a then child shouldn't be subjected to anything like that. Like, I don't think parents should subject their children to knowing all of their shortcomings. Like, of course, if there's something unavoidable, you should let your child know, hey, there's the situation and things are going to be a bit rough, buddy. But obviously you shouldn't use your child as an outlet for your trauma or whatever. You should seek out either a professional or someone who is like a peer, Anyway, but yeah, age is a very weird perception. I feel like that's exactly why you have a lot of weird takes about age in general online. And I'm not even gonna like describe some, because like some of them are like arbitrary, some of them are very clearly based in ignorance, but a lot of people online are trying to like make it sound like 30 years old or whatever, and most of those people are not even like, they're under 25, let's be honest. And I feel like there's a huge issue, and this is an issue in general with society, where you do see a lot of people being like, oh, this bro is pushing 30, when that person is like, the person who's pushing 30 in question is just like vibing and, not doing anything bad, just being like a little silly or whatever. And I think the problem is, we kind of like assuming that people older, they cannot, be a little goofy, a little silly, and we see adults as having it all together and being serious. And when that perception is betrayed, we either want to assume the worst about someone, or we think something is wrong. And that's why I think like that mentality is like a huge deal. It's kind of like how something I heard about K-pop spaces is that if you're like, let's say, older than a certain age, like, I don't know, let's say 30, right? There's a lot of people who are going to look at you weird in the fan base, being like, oh, why are you still a K-pop fan? You're like a parent. Shouldn't you have better things to do? But at the same time, the same people who say that are always going to say, "No, I'm a I'm a fan for this artist, and I'll be a fan forever. This is not a phase. I'll be a fan of XYZ artist all my life." All right, and it's like, buddy, you will, and that's not an issue at all. But expect people to not have the same amount of patience with you. Yeah, of course, this isn't universal. This is like a matter of attitudes in communities that have a lot of younger people, right? But if you're like me and you try to surround yourself with people your age, like, I don't think I have a friend who's like under, let's say, 20. I think maybe one that is like 19. I don't even know. I don't keep track of people's ages. I just know that I'm mostly friends with people in their 20s and 30s, and that's kind of how I want to keep it. I want to have my friends grow with me. Like, I do kind of look a little suspiciously at people who are like in their mid 30s or something, and their entire friend group is comprised of like under 25s. Like, no, I'm not saying that there's an issue with having friends of that age. Like, look, if you're 35 and one of your or like one or a few friends are in their early 20s, like, that's nothing wrong. I think the problem is when your like entire friend group is that. But anyway, perception and age and whatnot, you know. I kind of went on a tangent on this topic. Anyway, yeah, turning 27 is a milestone, I guess, because now I've kind of exited the mid 20s part, and I'm kind of starting the late 20s area. Um, like, I would say probably it's like, if your 20s are like one early, one, two, three, mid, four, five, six, yeah, seven, eight, nine are like late. Yeah, it is kind of like a holy shit, I'm getting there, but you know, aging or whatever, it's a privilege. I I will admit I am doing way better off than I thought of years ago. Like, if I was to ask myself from 3 years ago, I thought I would have probably been scared as hell that at the point I'm at right now, I would still be struggling the same way I was back then. I think this is why exactly when I do tell people that, hey, things do get better, I I can actually say that I mean it, because I'm thinking of how I was in the past. How at 23, I one of my biggest fears was that at the age of 30, I will have the same issues and same struggles, and I will be in the same place and same circumstances that I was then. And I haven't been in those circumstances for 2 years, and I've been doing pretty decently. Like, of course, nothing is like, perfect, but that's kind of the thing about life. Life, if you expect life to be perfect and not have any friction or any issues, yeah, you're in for a bad time. You have to kind of understand that you will still face adversities, and you have to be resilient. However, something I always think about, right? When you go on a trip or you go hang out with a friend, at that moment, in your head, you're thinking of XYZ thing, XYZ worry and anxiety and things that is sitting on top of your head. You're full of concerns, full of worries, right? You're taking in the view. You're appreciating what's going on. You like what you see. You enjoy the view, but your brain is drifting away. You're working overtime. However, I think one thing is that you will always look back at that moment, and you're not going to think, oh yeah, I was looking at the sunset with my friend. It was so beautiful, but my head, but most importantly, I was thinking about this thing and that thing and whatever. Like, of course, if it's a huge issue, you may recall something, but I think your main focus then and there is going to be, I watched this sunset, it was beautiful, and it was a really good time spent with my friend. Because on the moment we're focused on the bad times, our current, like our current worries and fears, and once those are away, we can look back at the past and say, oh, that was a good time. You know, I'm specifically thinking of a trip I had last year where my mind was constantly stressed out about financials, because that month I, not even because of my fault, but because of someone else being a complete asshole, to put it lightly, I had to spend extra money, right? And I was very much stressed out about what am I going to do for the rest of the month. What am I going to do that? What am I going to do that? Like, that was my main thought at that point, right? The point was actually kind of affecting how I was feeling about the whole trip. And I still remember that. But if someone was to ask me about that trip, that wouldn't be the first thing I would mention. I would talk about, oh, I saw these nice places. Oh, yeah, I walked around this place and that place. I'm going to be a little vague here because I think I don't need to share much in that regard about like where I went and whatever. But my point is, I appreciate the time I had there and then way more and way better looking back. And yeah, that's the main thing I had on my mind. Lately, I've been also, and this is more of a lighthearted topic since I've been talking about this for about almost 20 minutes. I started playing on my 3DS again. Well, again, proper now. I've been meaning to play on my 3DS for a while. I'm not a portable gaming person. But I will be completely honest, I do have quite a few platforms that I own, but I haven't given enough love, and the 3DS was the first one on my mind. So I decided, okay, I'll do a whole month where I predominantly game on the 3DS. At first it was exclusively, but I'll be honest, I do like my, whenever I have nothing to do, passive session of Balatro, to the point of saying, you know what, I'm just going to keep it to a minimum. I'm not going to abandon my plan of predominantly gaming on the 3DS. I'm just going to not play any serious game on PC or any other consoles. The thing about the 3DS is I have had a really good time. You know when people say it's easy to mod the 3DS, they mean it. But I think the most important thing is that it's easy to bring it back to how it was during its peak. Because I haven't had a 3DS until a few years ago, like not too long before this they announced the shutdown of the eShop and all that. So I didn't get to experience the 3DS at its peak, and as time goes on, I would probably get to experience it less and less. Like, for example, Street Pass, right? Um, Maybe in 2014, I would have probably gotten plenty of Street Passes. 2023, not that many. 2025 right now, probably even fewer. However, there's now custom tools to let you use Street Pass through the web, so you can still encounter Miis from all across the world, but it's just gonna be, you know, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't even have to take your 3DS out. And I know this is gonna sound like cheating because it's like, oh, well, you're getting a ton of them and you don't have to go out. And the consensus and like the idea of Street Pass is to go out and encounter people. But at let's be completely honest, how many people will still have their 3DSs? How many people still take them out? Like maybe the Switch, but even then, I think a lot of people are playing on their Switch completely indoors. Like, at least I do. And you may say, well, maybe what if there was a smartphone app? Okay, but the thing is that not many people would care about it. Like, I don't think it would see large adoption because it's a very niche thing, and at that point might as well just grab your 3DS, you know. But anyway, I have that, but I also have a thing called Pretendo that allows me to connect to basically third-party servers where everything just works as it used to. Not on every game, but an increasing amount of games, and it just brings back the exact energy that I missed out on, you know. And I've been playing through Animal Crossing, some Tomodachi Life, Pushmo. I haven't gone as deep as I wish, but I will be completely honest. I want to first do Pushmo before I start anything else, because I do have this problem of if I start too many games at once, I will put all of them down or most of them, and at that point, I would rather put all of my resources into beating one game at a time. And sure, Tomodachi Life and Animal Crossing are also their own games, but Tomodachi Life is more of a thing you do for funsies and not to reach a goal. And I would even say the same about Animal Crossing. I just play it for fun. I don't necessarily play it to get to a certain goal, and I've been just chipping away at it slowly. I do the daily tasks and I get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I get bells and I upgrade my house, or I started the first ordinance today, raising funds for a bridge on my town. Yeah. After I finish with Pushmo, I'm gonna think of what else to play. I want to prioritize playing through the games that I do own physically before I sail the seven seas, of course. Physically or digitally, because I do have some games digitally, and you may say, but why would you? What's even the point of owning digitally? I just wanted to. and they were on sale before the eShop shut down, and I guess it's just like a matter of me being able to say, yeah, I can't preserve those games. Even if it's just to myself, I have backed up the ROMs and everything. So if the 3DS ever just goes to the shitter, I can just always bring those back. I do want to buy a new 3DS sometime in the future. Do I see myself playing on 3DS past this month? Maybe not. I love playing on 3DS. I don't think I'm gonna play on it every single day like I've done thus far. However, I do see myself being more willing to just open it up and say, you know what, I feel like playing a bit of this, a little bit of that, especially since games like Pushmo, for example, or I have Stretch Mode and I have the other one. I don't even know if the World one came out on the 3DS, but whatever. Point is, those are very easy to just pick up and play, and I think that's a huge advantage for me. Because if I ever get bored, I can just say, you know what, I'll just put it up and I start playing through this, and I may just get hooked. You often have this problem of me being bored, but I also don't feel like doing anything. And I feel like playing something like this, something simple, is probably gonna be the answer to my boredom. Uh, I do have plenty of platforms I do want to game on more. So probably after I do this 3DS thing, I might look into other platforms that I've say neglected. And I have two that I already want to consider. One being the Wii. I have played on the Wii a bit, but it's not been enough. And the PSP, and I have hardly used my PSP whatsoever in any capacity. I do have some games. I do have a library, but the problem is I have not touched it, and I think that is a problem for sure. I have a gigantic backlog. I have, even if I was to remove duplicates, right? Like games that I own on multiple consoles, I would still have at least 1,000 games, or about 1,000 games, give or take. And if I include all the games I got from itch.io, like the indies that I bought in packs from the there was a Palestine Relief Fund pack that I got, that increases the amount big time. Though I don't count those games, not because they're lesser, but most of those are games that you're not really supposed to. They are pick up and play, but they're also the type of games that you kind of finish in 5 minutes, which is very fine. This is not me being critical or saying they're lesser. I'm just saying that, like, seeking out, when it comes to seeking out something more complex than an Atari game lengthwise, because that's why, for example, I would never, if there's a console I would never buy, is one of those like Atari 2600 types. Why? Because I have no reason to. Like at this point, if I want to play anything from that console's library, I would probably seek out one of those collections, right? Like Atari 50 or those little collections, or I would even just seek out the arcade versions for a lot of them that usually have more replayability or more features here and there. But yeah, the PSP, Wii, and now currently 3DS are the consoles I'm thinking of. I might even play in the regular DS. I have a DS Lite, and I might just give that a shot too. And you will say, well, why not just play those games on your 3DS? And sure, that's fair. I could play them this month, but at the same time, I do want to focus on that platform's library, like the games that I cannot play on any other platform. The games that I can that were made with the platform in mind. And if I do find myself playing on the 3DS, I will probably get the new 3DS. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking about it. Other platforms I want to play on more, even maybe even the Wii U. Though I don't have, I have a few games on the Wii U, but I have to set up Pretendo to get much out of them. Um, I did play a bit of Mario Maker on the Wii U before they shut down the servers. It was actually a really fun time. I beat the campaign more or less for two when it came out. Well, not when it came out, like a while after. Um, and I played some custom levels, and it was a good time. The problem is, I do seriously enjoy Mario Maker 1 so much more, to the point where I feel if they are to make a third game, not sure how much they're going to, because from what I know, two wasn't received as well, and it's kind of seen as a flop. But what do I know? I may be wrong. I am not going to say, oh, I'm 100% right on this. Um, if they do a third one, I hope they do something more similar to the first Mario Maker. And I know for sure they're probably gonna add Mario Wonder to the game styles. And I feel, given how they wanted to have extra game styles and they only had one of them, I do believe that, potentially, right, that Mario Wonder was in the works for many years and it was supposed to come out earlier. And my theory is that if it came out earlier or they supported Mario Maker 2 for longer, we would have seen a game style specifically for Mario Wonder. My theory is that we're gonna see Mario Wonder, maybe a standalone Mario 2 one, definitely Mario Land 1, like a Mario Land 2, I assume. We shall see, really. I want to play more video games. I've noticed this is not to any fault necessarily of my own. I just prefer playing in shorter sessions, but it takes me a long while to beat a video game. Like, I look at someone who can finish some like 30-hour campaign in a weekend, and I'm like, how? Um, the new Mafia game, the old Mafia the Old Country, came out, and it's a 12-hour campaign, and it took me about a week, not even almost a week. And this was with me trying to play it as much as I felt like it every day, like chipping away at it little by little. Um, and it still took me almost a week, like not a full week. I think like 4 or 5 days. The point is, and that was me with focusing on the game. Meanwhile, I've been playing Pushmo for I think about a week. I've been doing this. I I can't say the word challenge. I don't like using the word challenge for it, because whenever I think of challenge, I think of those like YouTubers that are like, I survived 24 hours playing Animal Crossing, or oh, I survived playing 30 days Animal Crossing. Like, that's what you're supposed to do, playing 30 days casually or whatever. Um, so that's why I don't like using the word challenge. But I think the word I can think of really is Um, I just did something. I played on the 3DS for a month every day. Like little by little, I made it a point to at least play something. Not because I want to prove a point or whatever. No, 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 no. I already know the 3DS is a great console, and I remember talking about it in the past how I like the 3DS, and I feel like during the early 2010s, it really kept Nintendo relevant because the Wii U was not relevant at all. Um, and the thing is, even the 3DS was far from what the DS used to be. Not too much of a fault of its own. I feel like the 3DS didn't do as well as the DS for the same reason the Vita flopped as bad as it did. It's because they both came out at kind of the worst time to have a portable. This was in the early 2010s when people were starting to adopt smartphones en masse. Like, you had smartphone users in 2010, 2011, whatever, but I would say around 2012 is when it just got everywhere. Everyone was getting a smartphone at that point, with especially once iPhone 4 came out and the Galaxy S2 and 3 and whatever. It just blew up. And the thing is, a lot of people may not remember or may not know, which is kind of odd for me to say because I was there. I was in middle school when all this was happening, right? People approached smartphones very differently from how they are now. Like, yes, of course, they were using them for social media, but back then they were seen as like gaming devices too. People were thinking that the future of gaming is in mobile phones. Like, people were genuinely thinking that, similar to how quite a few people don't even touch a PC because if they were to use only social media, they don't get any advantage from using it on web. People were thinking that that's going to be the same for video games. It's not. That's why I think that whenever someone says, "Oh, video game consoles are a thing of the past," or that they're gonna go away in 10 years, I scoff and I say, no, they're not gonna be. Especially given our current gaming environment, where companies are asking for like a gigantic price for GPUs and components, and you get like a high-end gaming computer, right? And games these days come out so unoptimized on PC that you can have a fucking 4090 or 5090, right? And the game still doesn't touch 60 FPS. Like, you have the fucking top of the line computer. I have a 4090, right, with 32 gigs of RAM, and like pretty much almost as good as it gets. Like, I got this PC set up like almost 2 years ago, like a year and a half ago, so before the 5090. Until the 5090, I think my configuration was like pretty much as good as it got. Like, sure, you can do 64 gigs of RAM, but it doesn't help much. But it was as good as it would get. And I remember when I was playing Mafia: The Old Country, I'm playing 1440p, right? Because I used to have a 4K monitor, but I realized that I would rather have 1440p, which is perfectly fine, over 4K, because you just don't get any advantage to that resolution increase. And also it was 4K 60, or no, 4K 30 hertz. And if I was to turn it down to 1440, it was 60. And I just decided to get a 1440p monitor that does 165 hertz. And I would not go back, really, honestly. It's just it Just honestly, if you want to buy a computer and set up a computer, don't even think about buying a 4K monitor. The only things that you will get any mileage out of 4K is a smart TV, like a big screen TV, and even then, there's hardly any true 4K media out there that is like, not just like footage of nature or whatever. Even a lot of 4K blur, like UHD 4K releases, are just upscaled from 1080 or 1440p, so keep that in mind. So that's why I would say don't rush to overstate 4K. It's not quite there yet. I would even say for PC gaming, the meta or whatever it's called, just 1440p is great. 1080 is also fine. Like, those are the ones to aim for. But anyway, as I was saying, games are so unoptimized and parts are so expensive that it's a matter of, do you want something that is cheaper, or not, but not the cheapest option. Don't get me wrong, not the cheapest option, but it's easy to set up and it handles every single game you throw at it from this current moment and for the next few years at decent graphics and a decent performance. Because some people will say 30 is unplayable or barely playable. I'd say 30 is okay. 60 is, preferable, and 60 should be the target for games. Games should target 60, but 30 is also playable and totally fine, at least for me. Meanwhile, with PCs, if you want to play modern games, you kind of need to spend a lot more money if you want to play them at good settings. You can get a PC made for less than the price of a console, but you will have to stick to older games. But if you're like, okay, but if I stick to old games, is there a counterpart? Someone is trying to someone is compensating really hard outside. Don't mind them. Anyway, with $500 you can get to play older games. However, if you don't care about upgradability and extra stuff and you just want something that is mostly for gaming, my recommendation, the best bang for your buck solution would be to just buy a PS4. Sure, games are not many games are coming out on the PS4 anymore, and that is true. But you can buy a PS4 right now for $100. Like, I'm thinking about it this way: you're Jimbo, who has just moved out into their own home and was not able to take any of their belongings. So no computer, no video games, no nothing. Or they have like a laptop that is only good for browsing the web, or just a phone or whatever, and you want to do gaming, I would just straight up say get a PS4. Why? The PS4, again, it's $100, and for, let's say you have a budget of $150, for $150 you can buy a console and you can buy several games, and the games on PS4 are good. You do have a lot of heavy hitters, so you're kind of sad. Anyway, I know I keep jumping from topic to topic. That's just kind of my way of talking, so you gotta get used to it, skill issue or whatever, but I just like approaching 10 million topics at once and delving a little too much into every one of them, which has resulted in people telling me that I can be a little hard to follow. So, I'm sorry if that is the case, and I can hear the criticism. The problem is I don't think I'm gonna change that, because I'm not doing any of these for any of these vlogs for popularity or whatever. I'm not doing them to appease to someone. I'm just putting my thoughts out, and whoever wants to listen shall listen. If you don't want to listen, that's totally fine. If you think my vlogs are too difficult to follow, that is totally valid, and I'm not going to fight you on it. I have no reason to fight you on it. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. I know that I just literally could have summarized everything to, wow, I turned 27 and I started playing on the 3DS, but I like over explaining myself and elaborating way too much on the most basic of topics. It's me, it's my thing. Anyway, I will see you all whenever I do the next vlog.